advice for those impacted by recent layoffs in tech sales? Maybe one piece of advice.
Yeah, that's a tough one right now. I mean, there's just a lot of hiring freeze, so unfortunately, patience is going to be part of it. But again, go back to your network, people that you used to work for, especially that are connected. If somebody calls me that's worked with one of me on one of my teams before, I'm very likely to say, okay, let me see if I can, personally try to get you in front of 3 or 4 people that I know, and that's probably the easiest way.
Great. And we have a question from Jesse. Should sales managers bail their SDR team out of LinkedIn and email jail? So I get confused on these questions. So Jesse, feel free to rephrase. So I assume that if I'm a BDR, SDR, I'm doing a lot in LinkedIn. So the LinkedIn may shut me off because I'm doing too many outreaches, and maybe with email, things are going to junk if the company doesn't have the kind of email system set up. So I don't know if you have a perspective on this or not.
Well, I mean, I think that is just part of it. I mean, I think about how many outreaches I get a day and not being able to respond to all of them or necessarily be interested. So that whole spam folder issue is a real challenge. And that's why sometimes trying to make a phone call can differentiate. That's why I think the technology is great, but sometimes it does actually take going out and doing things in person, individually, meeting at associations or doing things within your community to also look for ways to break out of that, because you can't reach everybody now, virtually. There's definitely an overload.
Definitely. So thanks, Jesse. I think we're able to figure it out. And what about your perspective? I know you were kind of early on in your career involved with global sales training and enablement. Mm-hmm. So from a kind of sales training perspective, how do you view the importance of that? Kind of how does Epicor do it?
Yeah, it's definitely a passion of mine. I run our global sales kickoff, which is basically focused on motivate, educate, and celebrate in that order. Right. So I really believe each sales kickoff is an opportunity to have your entire sales team get recommitted to the company. Right. So it's a big part of our retention strategy, both with, younger reps, but also with our seasoned reps that, our competitors are constantly trying to recruit. So for me personally, our kickoff is one of our largest training events. We do a lot of motivational things too. I mentioned skydiving earlier, but both myself and Andy Cousins did a motivational sky jump when we were trying to get people to think about moving to the cloud. So we did the whole cloud theme.
Oh, you got Andy to do it?
I did. It was really fun. I'll have to give you the video at some point. And then we come on stage with our jumpsuits, and it was like, if we can do this, you can do this. And then the whole thing was basically, teaching them how to really focus on a cloud TCO. And this was a number of years ago. But bottom line, then that whole training then went right into, okay, how do you get to the CFO? How do you have a conversation to the CFO about the value of moving to the cloud? Here's the TCO financial analysis that we've prepared. We're going to help you do that. Here's your security questions, right? So really sort of very specific training. And although we do use outside content, we'll take that outside content, work with a smaller group first, and then we tend to want to deliver it ourselves. I use my sales VPs for that. Not all of them love that, because it is a lot of work for them after they finish their fiscal year a month later to show up and basically engage in this. But we found that it's much stickier for the reps if the people delivering that content actually are part of the company. And we sort of put the Epicor spin on it. So definitely a huge passion of mine. And I do feel it makes a big difference in retaining, the tenure that we have.
Awesome. And shout out to Sandler, who's our sales training sponsor of Sales Community. So moving on, what about kind of how you view today the importance of, I guess, what used to be called sales ops, now rev ops?
Yeah, it's really critical and important. There's so much data and information, right? I look at our Salesforce. We also use Clary for forecasting. When there's 3 weeks left in the quarter and you're like, okay, where are things trending? What does the pulse look like? where am I compared to this exact minute of this day, last year at Q2, or even last quarter, depending on, how your cycles work. But I think for me, sales operations has turned, into something a lot more strategic. So for us, I mentioned our project for quote to cash. Our sales operations team is really leading that charge and really looking on how we build best practices in. And then the second piece of it for me, as I said, is really providing me more insights into what's happening versus, hey, I built you this view or this report. It's really coming to me and saying, hey, we're trending ahead here or we're behind here. These are the things that we're seeing. And then being able to make that, really simple all the way down to the rep themselves. So definitely a strategic role. I think it's really critical in today's, there's so much information out there. That operational angle, I think, is really turned into much more of a strategic analytics side. And certainly the hires that we've been making, that's the trend we're looking for, is people who bring, I'd almost use the word data science. I know that's the hot college degree right now, but bringing people in that know how to assess and analyze data that can help us operate the business is really where I see that direction going.
Yeah. I mean, I always like to say the old days was you could look, the data was kind of the rear view mirror, kind of where you've been. Now with Gong, a bunch of other tools, it's kind of, where are you going? What are you doing? How are you doing it? You mentioned clarity, but kind of just the access to this data to be able to make decisions, to be able to know who's going to do what, where, and when. I mean, it's crazy, isn't it?
It's great.
Works out amazing. And then Jesse chimed in on your comment before, technology amplifies failure and success. I love the point. Thanks, Jesse. So as we're wrapping up here, a few more questions, so maybe shorter answers because you can talk forever about all these, but maybe examples of sales leaders that you respect, maybe if you want to pick a couple and why.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, on the sales side especially, it's people that have come up through that industry background and training. And so, if they started as a sales rep into a sales manager and really driven that all the way up through their career, for me, that's definitely, that's the highlight.
Awesome. Any names you want to mention?
Not anybody specifically. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings because I have so many that I've worked with. I think at Oracle, I probably had the strongest sales leaders that were out there. And just the pace of that company was such that you were just moving at a really different level. But across the board, I've been lucky to work with some amazing people.
That's great. Did you ever work with Tony Fernicola?
I do know Tony quite well from Oracle. Oh. Yes, he was more on the hardware side of the business for a while, and on the technology side, right? So he had all the database side, and I was more on the app side. But he's a great example of that. And he also, he was the master of really working the network, right? His ecosystem. He knew so many people and he really leveraged that. And that was something I definitely learned from him.
Yeah, I mentioned him because he's in Naples here. What about any CEO leaders you respect?
Well, I really have had the opportunity to work with very diverse CEOs, but I've learned an incredible amount really from all of them. Charles Phillips was phenomenal at Infor. I think he brought sort of very much a customer-focused approach to Infor. And I like the way he ran his leadership team. They literally sat at one table, so they did not have individual offices, and met and really worked through their day sitting together. So there was no walls between those offices, which meant everything was on the table all the time. So a little harrowing to go in and present to your boss when everybody was listening, but he got things solved very quickly. And I really look back on that time and we needed decisions made quickly, so it was phenomenal. And then working with Steve here at Epicor the past 6 years has been great. He brought some really specialized talent into the company. And I think one of the things I really like about the way he works is we really run our own shows, right? He gives us a lot of room to run our businesses, make our own decisions. We meet and he's always there if you've got a question or a comment or a concern, if you need something escalated. but he doesn't micromanage, and I think that has allowed us to pivot quickly and grow the business as quickly as we have.
Awesome. Hopefully he gets out on sales calls too.
Yes, of course. Yes, we do both virtually and in person.
All right, good. What about any advice that you've received from any mentors over the years?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the number one piece of advice I have, and I also give it now, is really, to take a year at a time. And especially if you're in a sales related role, because it is very easy mid-year or early in the year to sort of just get frustrated or have one thing sort of, whether it's a new boss coming in. That's happened to me many, many times in my career, and really thinking, oh no, I'm going to need to go. This isn't, I don't feel safe here, or this is going to be too difficult or too much of a change. And so this concept of sort of, taking a deep breath and just letting things play out. And I had that advice early on in career when I was close to leaving. I ended up not leaving and ended up getting a much better promotion, 6 months down the road than I would have if I had jumped ship to take another opportunity. So I think it is really not overreacting and really thinking about it 1 year at a time. What do I want to accomplish? And what do I need to do to sort of continue to grow and develop, at this company? Versus sort of the nature is something happens and we immediately want to react. So that's my advice. I think it's helped me. My tenure at most of the companies has been 7 to 8 years, which again, for a sales exec is not usual. And then also for my team.
Yeah. Awesome. And then what any advice you'd give your younger self?
I guess early on in career, I was probably pretty serious. So I think I've become a much more balanced person, but also I just think like the teams that I'm running today, and despite the fact that my job has been harder and I have, a lot of weight on the shoulders, I bring a really good sort of collaborative, fun atmosphere to work every day. Whether that is, talking about sports on the forecast call or just engaging with clients at the Formula One or the events. Early in career, I think I was really busy trying to prove myself, and I kind of separated my two lives to the point that it's just not healthy to do that. So I think for me, that would be it. It would have been like, just loosen up, enjoy your job, and, make sure that you're bringing your personality and what's important to you into your job as well. And I'm much happier now working that way.
Perfect. Awesome. Love it. And we have from Michael Norton, great advice right there. Thanks, Michael. So time flies when you're having fun. You've been awesome. So for those watching, Lisa Pope, president at Epicor, lots of great words of wisdom. For those that are watching, you're able to benefit from this. For those, and actually you should feel free to share it with others. Tucker, we reposted across a whole bunch of different social mediums. Next week, we have John McMahon, who's a legend for sure, but kind of godfather of MedPick, has this great book, Qualified Sales Leader. Actually read on the plane two weekends ago. And just a wealth of great knowledge and advice there coming up, just like Lisa. So anyway, everybody have a great rest of the week. Lisa, thanks so much. Appreciate it. And thanks to Sandler for sponsoring today.